Hello everybody, I'd just like to share with you my third Tresors Deluxe project for the month of October, and this time I have some Christmas stockings I've put together. I drew my own pattern out and made these up. They're actually fully lined, and I do have a short tutorial, well I hope it's short, at the end of this video on how to make the basic stocking for those who are interested. I will just come along here. They're all pretty much the same. I've used beautiful trims from Tresors Deluxe on each one of them, and also the absolutely gorgeous bling pieces. On each piece I've added some beautiful ribbons and lace to tassel down, and they're actually quite simple but I think they look absolutely lovely. They're actually only quite small. I mean, that is my hand. So they're not huge, but in our house, Christmas stockings are basically glorified lolly bags at Christmas time. So we were in need of some new ones, a couple of new ones. So I've made this one here and the one on the end here very similar, and the one in the middle is a gift for somebody else, so that has slightly different bling and laces on it. On the first one I've just used this lovely lace over calico, and both the two similar ones are made using this ivory coloured lace, and the middle one here is made using the last of the beautiful sequined lace from Irina, who is a passion for craft. It was a gift from her, and the other side is lined in organza for that one, mainly because that was the only piece of that I had left, so I wanted to use it on something special. I have the gorgeous blings, of course. I have some beautiful laces and some ribbons dangling down, and this beautiful silk ribbon on each of them. And there we go, and I'll just show you the laces that I've used across the top of each one of them. And here we go. These are the three different trims I've used on the three different boots, and they're actually quite a wide trim, as you can see. They're probably 3 to 4 inches wide, each one of them, and they worked beautifully on the boots themselves. And once again, a little look at the boots. I think they turned out really pretty, and once my kids, because my kids are getting a bit older now, the ones that are left at home, and once they're finished with them, I'll just use them as decorations. And I gave them this style because I wanted it to look a little bit more Victorian in shape without having that booty kind of look that you normally get. And also I was very tempted to put heels on them, but then I thought, you know, they're stockings, they're not boots, are they? So sometimes we have to think a little bit, I think. So there you go. I hope you like the stockings that I have put together, and if you're interested, I'll have the tutorial coming up now, and if not, thank you so much for calling by, and I hope you like them. Okay, so the first part of making the Christmas stocking is to have your pattern cut out. Now I'm lining my stocking, so I'm having 4 pieces of, this is calico, it's 100% cotton fabric, and I have 4 boots cut out. With one pair I'm going to put it to the side because that will be the lining. Now if you choose to use a different fabric for inside the boot, that's fine. If you don't want to line your boot, that's fine, just cut 2. But I do find that they're more substantial if they're lined. And with the next set of boots, just kind of put them there and find the lace fabric you're wanting to put over the top and lay it over Okay, so I want double that because I'm going to do the front and back. So I'm just going to cut that fabric up a little bit. You have to bear with me. I don't have a lot of space to craft in, so I do the best I can. Okay, so that will be enough fabric to cover both the boots. So I'll just cut that in half again. If you want to cut them out the shape of the boot to start with, that's fine. Just do that. There's less wastage that way, but all my scraps go into my scrap box anyway, so it's actually not wasted. Find the right side of your fabric and get one of your boots. I hope I've been in shot there. To move up a little bit, don't I? How's that? Is that better? And one of your boots, make sure you've got it the right way. Lay it over the top like that and start pinning. I've just made the pin cushions in the wrong place. Okay, so start pinning it all the way around and just go around pinning it into place, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I have my lace pinned on all the way around my stocking, and now I'm just going to stitch around the edge, 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the fabric underneath, all the way around the stocking. Once I've done that, I'll come back and show you. Okay, so I've stitched all the way around the boot, as you can see, 1/4 of an inch, and now I'm going to trim all that excess lace off. Like I said, you can actually cut the lace to size beforehand if you want to. I actually like doing it this way because I get a nice neat fit on my lace over my boot, whereas sometimes if I was to cut it beforehand, the lace may move a little bit and then it might go a little bit off. So I enjoy doing it this way, and like I said, I actually don't waste the lace pieces because they just go in my scrap boxes and get used on other projects anyway. Maybe if you were using a very expensive lace for a special occasion or something, you would be a little bit more economical with it. You know, if it was a specialty lace or something like that and you really didn't have a lot to go around, maybe you would sit it down and pin it on and cut it out properly first. But these pieces here are big enough to use on other projects, and I will put them in my scrap box. So there's one side of our stocking. Oops, we didn't do the top. Be sure to trim the top as well. Okay, there's one side of our stocking, and now I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side of the stocking. But what you need to be aware of is don't do it exactly the same way. Flip it over, because you want, you know, it's got to be like a mirror image. So you wouldn't do two going like that. You would flip it over and then put your lace on this side like that. Got to get it the right way now, like that. Okay, so that when they go together, they mirror image one another. So I'm going to pin this on and stitch and trim exactly like I did with this one. I'm not using a very small stitch. I'm using a number 3 stitch, quite close to the edge, like I said, because there will be another stitch line when we stitch it all together that will come a 1/2 inch out. So this is just to keep our lace in place while we're sewing. Okay, so we have both of our stocking pieces. See how there's a mirror image of each other here, like over. And now all you're going to do is place the right side, which is the one with the lace on it, together. And I like to start at the toe, because you've got to get the shape of your feet nice. You can always trim the top up or fix it up at that end, but it's nice to get the toe in the right spot. So pin from the toe and get your fabric edges. Your lace little bits might pop out a little bit, but that's fine. But get your fabric edges together nice and neatly and pin them all the way around. Okay, so we're all pinned now. The stocking is all pinned all the way around, apart from up the top. You do not sew across the top, so we're going to start on one side of the stocking. We're going to sew all the way around up to the other side, and we're going to leave the top open. So I'm going to make this a 1/2 inch seam allowance now, and I'm going to make my stitches smaller. I'm bringing it down to almost a 2 because you don't want it pulling apart or anything like that once you put things inside. Just easing that curve in nicely. Now just slow down as you come to the toe part, because it is quite a sharp corner. So just take it easy, and as you get close to it, just put your needle down, lift the foot up and give it a little, take 2 or 3 stitches, ease it around a little bit more again, remove your pin, couple more, couple more, couple more, and then that should be it, and we can go on our way. The heel isn't as tight, but still slow down, because you will have to just ease it around a little bit. Don't lift that foot up unless your needle's down. And that should be it. Okay. That's our boot stitched. As you can see, there's the one we just did in a smaller stitch, and I hope that's picking it up. The outer one is a larger stitch, and it's about 1/4 inch out. Now what we need to do is we need to trim certain parts of our boot so they will sit nicely once it's turned the right way. Now this curve here isn't very sharp, so you may not even need to put any little clips in it at all, but I'm going to put a couple in just to make it sit nicely on the other, you know, when it's turned out. And the same around here for the heel part where it goes in. I'm just going to put in a couple of little cuts like that, not cutting the stitching line, of course, just so it helps it around, you know, to fold through. Now the heel, we can also do the arch of the foot here a bit as well by just putting 2 or 3 little cuts in, you know, like 1 inch apart is fine. It's not a huge curve. Now here, where the toe part comes, we're going to take out a little wedge or 2. Like that, so that when it folds through, it's not too bulky. Okay, like that. And we're going to do exactly the same on the heel, but we'll probably do them a little bit closer together here, maybe 1 or 2 more. Do not cut the stitch line that you've just stitched. The outer one's fine for you to cut because that was just holding our lace basically in place nice and neat for us, but don't cut the stitch line we just did. And if you have to do a couple of, you know, attempts at getting the wedge, that's fine. It's better than slipping across that stitch line. And if by some chance you do cut your stitch line, you may be able to hand sew it a bit if you want to, but there's, you know, you can just run another stitch line down a bit further in, it will be fine. So okay, I've done 3 little notches around the heel, and then we have our toe. Now our toe is quite sharp, so the first thing I'm going to do is take a little bit of that excess fabric off, because we don't need all that bulk in the toe area once it's turned through. Okay, and very carefully do a couple more notches like so. In fact, you could almost just cut it across like that as well. Not my own camera. See, my line comes around like that, and if I take that corner part out there, not cutting the stitch line, that will all fold in quite nicely. Okay, I'll just do a couple of little on that curve, and that should be fine. And to have a look, we will turn it through. Like so. And it's best to have, I usually have a paintbrush handy. I've got a pen, nothing too sharp. Just pop that in and gently push your toe out. If you have cut a little bit too far, just put a stitch or 2 in. It'll be fine. And maybe a little bit of clear glue that won't be shown sometimes helps as well. Or just go back and stitch another line. Okay, so there we go. That is our lovely little Christmas stocking. And now all our corners are done nice and crisp, and our toe, and it's looking really good. So now we're going to do the lining for that, and that's our other 2 pieces of fabric. Make sure they're lined up the same so that there we go, so they stitch nicely. And all I'm going to do is sew all the way around the edge of this lining piece, but not across the top of the stocking, and I'll be back once I've done that. Okay, so before I start to sew, I need to tell you you need to do this seam allowance 1/4 inch wider than we did for the last one. So there's 3 different widths. When you put the lace onto the first fabric, you're doing it at 1/4 inch. When you sew these parts together, you have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. When you do your lining, you make that even bigger, so it can be 3/4 inch seam allowance for this one. That way the inside of the bag will be, the inside of the slipper will be slightly smaller than the outside, which will stop it from popping over the top, and it just looks neat. Okay, so I've clipped and notched all my edges, and now what we need to do is put our good stocking. You can see the difference there. We're going to slip it inside of the lining. Before you do that, make sure they're facing the same way, like that. Don't have it like that, because it won't work, obviously. Make sure it's in there like that, and be sure to keep it that direction when you're putting it in. It can easily get a bit confusing and twist around. So open up your lining, your seams are still on the outside, get your toe and just push it into the lining like that. It doesn't have to be neat, but you do need to keep it, you know, facing the same way, like I said. Line up your seams at the front of your stocking. If you can line them up, try and have one seam going one way and one seam going the other way, like that, and just put a pin in there to hold it. Now go to your back seam and do exactly the same thing. Have one seam going one way like that and the other going the opposite way, and all that does is allow it to sit nice and flat once you've turned it all back through the other way. Oopsie daisy. Now I've pinned those on the outside. It's actually a bit easier to pin them on the inside for when you're sewing, because these are quite narrow, my little boots. If you make yours a bit wider and it can slide over the top of your free arm, then by all means pin on the outside, but mine can't, so I'm pinning it on the inside like that. Okay, and that should fit just lovely with no puckering or anything like that, because remember, we made, although we've made the lining smaller with all the seam allowances and everything, it should fit perfectly. Now we need to leave a little sewing, we need to leave a space so we can turn it all through. So I'm just going to say, I'll put a pin there for the sake of the video, there, and say there, and we're going to not sew on that particular part so that we can turn it all through. The rest of it we can just sew around, and like I said, if yours is a bit wider, just simply take your free arm off and slip it over. Mine isn't though, so I'm going to have to do it this way. I'm going to have to do it from the inside. Just what's that, a 1 centimeter, 1/2 inch seam. And just as you get to the pins, keep your seams nice and straight. I just judge it by the edge of the foot is on the edge of the fabric, and then, you know, I work it out from there. Turn it around. You don't have to rush or anything like that. Make sure they're nice and straight. And remember, when we get to this pin over here, we're going to stop because we need to leave that gap to turn our boot through. If you were to use a heavier fabric, you could probably get away with not lining it. I want them to last a while, so and they are going to be used. They're not just decorations. Okay, so there we go. We've stitched that all together, and as you can see, there's a gap there, and that's where we're going to turn it all through. Probably could have been a little bit bigger, but we'll see how we go, shall we? Yeah, it could have been a little bit bigger, but we'll soldier on. Okay, so we've pulled our lace part out, and now we need to pull the other part out. So it all has to go, so you can see no seams, no shaggy seam bits. It's all going to look nice and tidy. And what it should actually look like when you've pulled it all through is like a top and tail, you know, like there's the foot and there's the other foot there, so it's like a mirror image of itself, you know, like that. That's pretty much what it should look like once you've done. And don't worry too much about getting that toe part out all the way, because now we're going to push it back inside. So grab something to poke it with, because if you don't get that toe done properly to start with, like there we go, you can see in there, that's the toe. You need to have something so you can hold that toe to make it easy for you. And then keeping that whatever you're using, I'm using a pen, in the toe area, take it all the way down inside the other toe and then hold on to it. Okay, I'm holding on to that. I'm taking my pen out now and I'm grabbing the seam at the top and I'm just pulling it and straightening it all out, and it makes it ever so much easier than trying to unravel it all. Now hold on to the toe again, go down with your pen or whatever else you're using and just have a little play and straighten things out in there so they all fit where they're meant to fit. Like you want your heel, which is here, sitting in your heel area, and your foot nicely curved into there. Your toe is still right down in that toe. And that's it. That's our stocking, our fully lined stocking. You've got a little, you need to straighten your seams. See, they do tend to fold a little bit, so give them a nice, straighten them out, pull all the excess so it's all right. Okay, and then fold that part there, which is where we left the gap to fold it all through. We're going to fold it, tuck it in like that, and just put a pen. Now you can either glue that or you can stitch that together like that, and see, there's your nice and neat and tidy boot. You have no big pieces hanging out the end. It's all very neat and tidy, ready for you to decorate exactly how you want it. You can put as much embellishment on it as you like, or as little, and it's nice and strong. You can make it as big as you want as well. Like I only wanted small ones, so that's the size I made them. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial.